I want to talk about something, right? You're tuned into the 9-5, and this is the podcast, episode 3. If I had like the press F to pay respects, I'll do it. That's what you need to do. Because this game is done. It's done. It's in the bushes. It's out of here. So I want to just I want to guide you into how we got here. So back in May, we had an article like this pop up on Forbes. I'm back on Forbes again, right? I ain't tripping. You better not trip either, right? Because I don't think this was incorrect in information. Because Paul Tassi, he's the senior, bro. Senior contributor. Paul Tassi, you got it. You got it. So you reported back in May, on the 27th to be exact, that Bungie reportedly reviewed The Last of Us factions and found it lacking. Ooh. Do y'all know what lacking means? Do you know lacking is not a good term? Lacking. You call it lacking. Ooh. Don't let your ops hear that. Microsoft heard it. This was back in May. See, this is right before the E3 season. See, Microsoft, they still in it, right? They're doing their thing at their little own showcase, their little theater, Fan Fest. I want to go to Fan Fest, bro. Let me know how we can get to Fan Fest. But Paul Tassi, talk to me. But I'm talking to the old you when you wrote this article. This is how it all began. They found it lacking. May 27th. Paul Tassi put in his article, starting off with, I don't want to say Jason Schreier delayed The Last of Us factions, but more or less Jason Schreier delayed The Last of Us factions. Wow. I don't know what led up to that, but maybe Jason Schreier had put out something on Kotaku which led to the fact that people are out here responding to this leak, or the fact that Jason Schreier, a real revered journalist here, is saying these things and said that internally this is what's going on at the company. But furthermore, into the article, while I'm half joking, while reporting a story about troubles with the multiplayer project, he did end up forcing Naughty Dog to issue a statement about the game's delay, alongside talking about a separate single player title. Wait a minute. So this is two things. Not just factions. We're talking about another whole game. Let's repeat what was said. While reporting a story about troubles with the multiplayer project, right? He reported predominantly on factions, part 2. He did end up forcing Naughty Dog to issue a statement about the game's delay, alongside talking about a separate single player title. Oh man. Schreier's report in Bloomberg has many interesting and somewhat unsettling details about factions, namely that Sony is now re-evaluating the project and taking off a lot of its developers to assign them to other things. Faction is not cancelled. But if it was struggling with its full team, it may not be long for this world with a much smaller one. Yikes. Naughty Dog's statement did not make to mention of shrinking team size, only a delay, not that factions had a release date in the first place. So right here, I think this is an official statement from the Naughty Dog X, right? I know it as Twitter, but it's X now. We know many of you have been looking forward to hearing more about our Last of Us multiplayer game. We're incredibly proud of the job our studio has done thus far, but as development has continued, we've realized what is best for the game is to give it more time. Yikes. Our team will continue to work on the project as well as other games in development, including a brand new single player experience. We look forward to sharing more soon. We're grateful to our fantastic community for your support. Thank you for your passion for our games. It continues to drive us. Ooh, man, hindsight, man, hindsight. But this was back in May 26, 2023. I really don't. have much more to say on that matter, but let's continue with this Forbes article. The tweet also makes reference to a brand new single player experience, which seems like a reference to a new IP rather than a single player content expansion for The Last of Us, which is not how I read that. Yeah, they could have just said The Last of Us 3, huh? Is that how they roll? They probably do that. So perhaps the most interesting bit of reporting has to do with Bungie's evaluation, right? That's the big bold letters. They said it was lacking. So let's get into this. Oh, man. Perhaps the most interesting. Okay, yeah. Evaluation of in their new roles. Oh, that's funny to me. Hold on. Sorry, homie. Listen to me right quick. Sony brought in Sony or Jim Ryan, because I listen to a lot of podcasts, so it's a lot of wisdom out there, but it's understandable and it's attainable. This is how I can interpret it or see it. Sony or Jim Ryan made the decision to buy Bungie. This was their, I guess, retaliation. This was their counter move to the Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard. You allowed a studio like Bungie to pull up to your homebred studio, Naughty Dog. Been there since day one with Crash Bandicoot. Naughty Dog are the developers behind the Crash Bandicoot series, if you didn't know. One of the predominant mascots for the PlayStation brand. Late 90s, way back in the day, PlayStation 1 days. They pull up, Bungie pull up. The way they playing the game over here, bro, they doing it a little bit too much. They're playing the game a little bit too much. I don't see no Destiny server up right now. I mean, you're supposed to be playing that, right? But you playing factions. Huh? So let me talk to you, Jim. Hey, so check this out. From what I seen from factions, bro, it's lacking. We first party live service now, Jim. Listen to me. I know you've been rocking with Naughty Dog for a long time, but listen to me. I does this, man. I does this. Let's read further. All right, so they call themselves Guru. That's why I went into that whole little mode. Gurus? I mean, I know Paul Tassi saying that, but Sony bought this. Jim Ryan bought this studio thinking that they had this type of hierarchy, right? To just pull up on an already cool organization. Last of Us is culturally received as one of the best franchises of all time, best IPs of all time. And you telling me, right, that Bungie that just, Halo was cool, but bro, you making Destiny and people ain't like your latest release. You mean they pulling up saying, yo, this ain't working? And the loco over here, bro, he ain't making it look like we want, we want to put the controller down. Why is your designer designing it too good, bro? Like, I want to know, like, the actual conversation. I'm just over here jiving. Sony has invested heavily in games as a service or video games designed to be monetized beyond their initial sales through ongoing purchases. I kind of seen that in those Insomniac leaks, how they was going to plan out these multiplayer releases. Furthermore, we get into the factions information about how that got canned and where we are with Bungie, and how I believe it's an opportunity for Microsoft to, like, hey, we got State of Decay 3 that's going to, I believe it's going to be a good one. But just to continue the quote here that we're on, talking about the leaks, not the leaks, but the canning of factions, the factions multiplayer, the Last of Us multiplayer project. Let's read again. Sony has invested heavily in games as a service. Where? Sony has invested in, I don't see it nowhere, right? As a part, they're designing their game, they're changing their design philosophy in these games. You can see it too. Um, in bold letters, it says Bungie raised questions about the Last of Us multiplayer project's ability to keep players engaged for a long period of time, which led to the reassessment. Mm. Bungie spoke for y'all? I'm talking about these beta testers. What happened to the game testers? What about the people? I haven't heard anything about the people that actually played factions. What about the bias, bro? We know they got a whole live service game going on right now. They trying to keep the lights on. Say what you want about Destiny 2, but this is a 6-year-old game and routinely ranks in the top 10 Steam releases and has over 1 million players a day much of the time. Engagement is kind of their thing. It's not like Naughty Dog is a total stranger to multiplayer. Uncharted and Last of Us had multiplayer modes in the past, which were generally well received, but a standalone game is a whole other thing. A live service multiplayer game is much different than our single player game has a multiplayer mode attached. Fair. Sony is really pushing hard service where 60% of its investment will be for fiscal year 2025, and they've said 12 live service titles are in the works, including Bungie's much revealed Marathon. But unlike Sony's close to perfect batting average with this big single player games, it is way harder to find that level of success in the live service space, and many of these games are likely to fail or combust even before launch, while Factions is not dead yet. It's sad though. Not for me. After this report, things certainly do not seem to be looking good. Okay. Paul Tassi, yeah. Man, some of this stuff did not age well. So this is a time traveling machine. The 9-5, we time travel. Check it out. I just got through reading an article about how the game is not canceled. We fast forwarded it from May 27th to December 14th. Guess what's happening? Guess what's happening over there? See, over here we cool. We just watching it burn. Watching it burn up there. We're watching it burn. Written by George Yang. The Last of Us multiplayer game canceled. This was December 14th. We'll focus on single player games going forward. Oh my God. Naughty Dog is refocusing its resources. Alright, starting off, Naughty Dog has stopped development of The Last of Us Online, its troubled attempt to create an online version of its popular franchise. The studio says that it would have needed to put all of its resources into post-launch content for years to come, and that approach would have severely impacted its ability to develop future single-player games. Quote, we realize many of you have been anticipating news around the project that we've been calling The Last of Us Online. There's no easy way to say this. We've made the incredibly difficult decision to stop development on that game, unquote, Naughty Dog said in a statement. So I've already read the first part, which was in the IGN article. I'm reading this part right here, highlight. We know this news will be tough for many, especially our dedicated The Last of Us factions community, who have been following our multiplayer ambitions adherently. That's one heck of a word, adherently. We're equally crushed at the studio as we were looking forward to putting it in your hands. We wanted to share with you some background of how we came to this decision. But yeah, this is the 9-5 podcast, episode 3, and we're talking about factions, how it got canceled. So earlier I was talking about, they making statements saying, the game is not canceled, and we still have the single player game on the way. No sir. Specifically, they said an update on Last of Us Online. Maybe the single player game is still in motion. I don't know. Maybe not. Further down the line, the multiplayer team has been in The multiplayer team has been in pre-production. Did I say pre two times? Pre-production with this game since we were working on The Last of Us Part 2, crafting an experience we felt was unique and had tremendous potential. As the multiplayer team iterated on their concept for The Last of Us Online during this time, their vision crystallized, the gameplay got more refined and satisfying, and we were enthusiastic about the direction in which we were headed. Right? This is going up. Going up. They're going up. They're going up. And the last part. Oh, it's another paragraph. Okay, let me highlight it for you. In ramping up to full production, the massive scope of our ambition became clear. To release and support The Last of Us Online would have put our studio resources behind supporting post-launch content for years to come, severely impacting development on future single-player games. So we had two paths in front of us: become a solely live service game studio. Paths, right? The phrasing paths. You mean the choice that Sony gave you? They allowed you? Because if their plans was going into live service, if you was mandated as doing this, but I guess, things change. So they had two paths in front of them: become a solely live service game studio, or continue to focus on single player narrative games that have defined Naughty Dog's heritage. Okay. Y'all can vote. Y'all did it with Last of Us Part 1. Like you said, it's different. Well, why didn't you do it for Last of Us Part 2? Y'all might be holding The Last of Us Part 3 close to the chest and have a multiplayer tacked on. I mean, that's the sound. That's how it sounded whenever you said, "Oh, it's not as easy as it sounds," when you make a whole game centered around multiplayer as opposed to single player with the multiplayer mode attached to it. We are immensely. Let me read the last part of it, and we'll move on to the Rockstar subject. We are immensely proud of everyone at the studio that touched this project. The learnings and investments in technology from this game will carry into how we develop our projects and will be invaluable in the direction we are headed as a studio. We have more than one ambitious, brand new single player game that we're working on here at Naughty Dog, and we cannot wait to share more about what's to come next when we're ready. And there goes the mention of that single player game again. Possibly we'll see more about that in 2024. I don't have the ear on what's happening right now, possibly right now, as I do the live podcast. The ear may be that the single player IP maybe can, just for the fact that I don't know why they phrasing it like that. They probably trying to save it if it's The Last of Us Part 3. I mean, who knows? Maybe it's that other game, the rumored game, the kind of space-like game or whatever. Who knows what it is, but they still talking about it in their update on The Last of Us Online, right? The whole article is about The Last of Us Online. They are making it paramount to mention this game. They emphasize it. The last statement that they made about we know with Jason Schreier releasing the articles about what the studio has been going through. Reactionary, they released a statement saying the same thing, that the game was in development and it hasn't been canceled. But now here we are, December 14th, as I record, December 20th or December 23rd, that is, that the game is done. It's out of there. That leads me to this moment here that we are witnessing with the cancellation of factions. It could be opportune for Microsoft to hop in and speak some type of language, right? Start getting some advertising in. Start letting people know, hey, there's a game in development that's focusing on cinematics, right? That's what we know from Last of Us, developing that archetype of good game, right? Of what a good game is, that third person over the shoulder. That's what Sony was on top with. Last generation PS4, yeah, they was on, they was with it. Let us know State of Decay 3 is on the way. People love State of Decay 2. They love the first one. With the reveal of State of Decay, right? 3, we was notified that, hey, the styling of this CGI, right? It was a CGI reveal. It was kind of realistic. You're emphasizing survival mechanics. You're emphasizing a wintry type of environment and biome or whatever. It'll be dope if that's like a dynamic effect of the weather in specific areas of the game, just take it up to the next level with next gen. I don't want to say next gen, current gen, Unreal Engine 5. I want to see how you take it to the next level system wise. But State of Decay 3 can capture some of that missing flame that factions probably would have had right? It's going to be a zombie-like type of world, cinematic, right? But it seems to me that it was going in a direction of a single-player narrative being, emphasized for State of Decay 3. And we all know how they do with multiplayer experiences, right? The roguelike systems implemented into how you develop bases, interact with people. It's just one of those type of games. State of Decay 3, bro, I believe it has that opportunity to be that zombie-like game. We got Dead Island 2. People say that was a sleeper hit of 2023, right? A very fun game. The fact that it's canceled, they can really take that audience and be like, yo, this is the real online experience for zombie survival. State of Decay needs to be revealed. In my opinion, it needs to be shown by the next Game Awards, realistically. Right, going into 2025, we should know something about State of Decay 3. So that is my, tinfoil hat speculation on what I believe Microsoft should do to implement the mind share, to get the mind share, right? State of Decay 3 is AAA. Undead Labs was having studio problems, mismanagement, but they're working on a game. So I want to see what happens. There were leaks saying the game's not coming out for a long time, 2026 or 7, something like that. I was like, hell no, that can't be the case. So show us something, bro. Stop playing. Show us something. So yeah, that would conclude the factions leak. I'm sorry to the fans, the Last of Us fans, like they said, man. One specific YouTuber, one specific individual, right? Man. Broken Games. I've been following him since Factions 1, and I was like, okay, cool. He likes to play Factions 1. So that's my attachment to at least seeing reaction, right? Legitimate reaction from a fan. So I'm gonna talk on that. Yeah, he was always on the forefront of multiplayer, bro, multiplayer. What you doing, Sony? So we're gonna see how this live service ideology is panning out, but we see it's kind of spiraling, but still on path to some type of live service integration in first party. So we're gonna move forward.